the topic today, how to become a trusted thought leader to attract board opportunities. Of course, this is an incredibly important part about really creating that powerful and effective persona of yourself as a board candidate. We're really, really excited to have our special guest today, Suki Mulberg Altamirano. And I hope I said that right. And I was going
Altamirano. It's a long one. You got it pretty close.
Altamirano.
Yeah.
It's really pretty. She is the founder of Lexington PR. Now, before we dive in and we hear from Suki, which we'll do really soon, I just would love to say a very brief word about the fourth floor. We are a market network designed to diversify boardrooms and cap tables. We are on a mission to close the gender, power, wealth, and funding gap by advancing for-profit board careers for women, supporting women-led startups and funds, and providing women opportunities to invest in other women. So if you are not yet a member, founders, you might want to consider joining us to build out your boards. You can pull from many talented women to find expert advisors and directors for your governing boards if you're at that stage in our board seat exchange. You can also seek funding in our private investment club if you are woman-led or BIPOC-led, although all founders are welcome to join. And then if you are an individual woman interested in advancing your for-profit board career or investing in women-led startups or funds, you can join us as a board candidate or as an investor. We are putting some links in the chat right now. I think the easiest way to figure out everything that we're all about and know exactly how to join us, how to get started, either as a company or as an individual, come to a platform tour. We do them every Monday from noon to 12:30. So we're putting that link in the chat. Also, coming to our board bootcamp is always a great idea. Again, whether you are a company, you are the founder of a company, or you are an individual potential candidate. So the next one's March 22nd. We always do them from noon to 2, and these are Eastern Standard Time. So we're putting that link in the chat as well. So really hope to see you at Platform Tour or Board Bootcamp to learn more. If you're not a member, really want to get everyone on this call involved in some capacity in the fourth floor. So enough about me. Let's get to the point of today. It is now my absolute pleasure to welcome to the spotlight and turn the floor over to you, Suki. So why don't you take it from here to introduce yourself more fully and start the show.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be able to speak with everybody today. I'll just give a quick introduction to my background. I'm the founder of Lexington Public Relations, and we work with businesses to share their stories. Typically, I've been doing this for a long time. Started my career back in New York City, doing PR in-house for some beauty brands like Elizabeth Arden and Kenzo. And then I handled PR for Williams-Sonoma. But about 12 years ago, I founded my own firm, and we specialize in everything from, earned media to thought leadership. But really, at the end of the day, it's about working with executive leaders or founders to grow their visibility, and create a message that what's the message they want to communicate, how can they reach their audiences, and help them, grow trust, build reputation, get investors interested in what they're doing, all that good stuff. So I will kind of head on to what we're all here to talk about today, though. So thought leadership. I think this is just a little snapshot of, some of the key areas we'll go over, but really it's about generating board opportunities and beyond. There's so many benefits to great thought leadership. So we'll kind of talk about what is thought leadership, what are some of those top benefits, some tips and strategies to get started, and then we're going to really go into how to pitch it, and I'll share some template pitches, talk about some of the materials you need to include, and then really talk about, some lessons I've learned in thought leadership over the last, decade, 2 decades plus of doing this. And hopefully y'all will be able to take away some really clear, actionable advice that you can, begin implementing into your own thought leadership endeavors afterwards. So if we take a look at, thought leadership, it's such a buzzword. So what is thought leadership? What does it really mean? And I think, when I think of thought leadership, it's really about growing trust and credibility. It's positioning your expertise as a subject matter expert in what you do and what you know, And the benefit of it, right, is that it can open a lot of interesting opportunities, whether that's board positions for people that are seeking insights, and someone in your arena of expertise, or publicity opportunities, links to your website. There's a lot of great benefits. But I think one of the key things to being, why isn't everybody a thought leader, right? Like, one of the most important things is being able to not just have expertise, but being able to share it in a way that provides insights that people can apply, right? And also in a way that's timely and it's relevant. So how can you take what you know, but make it easily digestible and attention grabbing? And also, help people that might be coming from a different field or different sector understand easily what you have to share. But, when we all think about thought leaders, right, those are the people that are sought after members from their industry. They're the people that everyone goes to when they want advice, when they want board members to support their mission and to be able to provide actionable business advice, right, for their growth endeavors. They're those names you think of right away. And then I think in terms of, we'll talk a little more about the different channels of sharing thought leadership, but I think that the three I would really think of are social media, specifically LinkedIn, right, is a great, and that's thought leadership, right? Just social shares and content and sharing interesting insights. That's one form of thought leadership. And then the two main ones that we'll talk about today are really securing quotes as an industry expert for yourself in news media articles, and then also contributing bylines or guest articles to outlets. So if we think about these, I think most people are pretty familiar with the first form, right, of being quoted. We all, read the news, and when you see an expert that's quoted, as a source for an article. So that's one form. I think some people might be a little less familiar with the other, which is bylines, which are industry guest articles. So I wanted to just include a couple of examples here across a wide range of industries. These are all clients of ours that I've worked with, but right, if you look at, there's CNBC Make It, and they're featuring, the CEO of a fashion company, and she's grown an amazing business. And that thought leadership article on her behalf is highlighting what's the business plan she used that other people could implement, right? So that's an article by that CEO that is run on their website, and it includes an authorship, it includes a link to your website, right? A little bit about the CEO. So another example is the one on Total Retail. That's a female owner of a feminine health company, right? Talking about what she's learned growing a national retail brand, right? So she's sharing her insights on that. We do quite a few of these. It could be for, sales leaders, like the sales hacker piece. Benzinga, here's strategies for battling inflation. Those strategies pulled on are provided, in an article that was written by the COO of a, company that helps facilities incorporate automation to better their operations, right? So at the end of the day, all of those types of articles, they're really establishing the person that's contributing as that expert, but they're also solving a problem and providing actionable input that other people could take and implement. I guess, are there any questions on, this up to now on anything? I'll keep an eye in the chat. I think we're good. If not, I'll just keep going, continuing on. So I think if we think about what are some of the benefits of thought leadership, and I talk a lot about storytelling, at our agency, but at the end of the day, whether you're speaking to your customers or business leaders or investors or partners or, businesses where you might be interested in joining as a board member, everyone wants to hear a good story. And that's your story in a way, right? And thought leadership is a really great way to share yours, but in a way that highlights your expertise and builds reputation and also your credibility. So I think, number one is really building reputation. When your insights are featured in a top news outlet, that's really great tool to establish yourself as somebody that's credible, somebody that's knowledgeable, somebody that's really an expert on that arena, because you've got that third party, giving you that backup, right? I think another really great benefit is sharing your chosen narrative. So, that's really the way when you do thought leadership, or if you're going to contribute an article somewhere, you have a lot of flexibility to highlight, the message that you want to highlight. So if you are a business and you're solving a certain problem, right? You're helping, say, even take that like fashion business as an example, right? Pink Lily, right? They're a great retail business. They're helping women feel empowered. They're bringing great designs at an affordable price, but they also can kind of highlight that narrative in a way that shows the entrepreneur story while simultaneously highlighting a lot of those business benefits at once. So you get to pick your narrative, is what I'm getting at. So you've got establishing trust, credibility, board opportunities. And like, that's why we're all here today, right? I think, thought leadership, it helps people know that you exist and who you are and what your expertise is, right? Because if you're quiet about that, people might not be able to find you. So I think it's a great way of getting visibility for who you are and for what you do and what you know, and, providing you as well with a great link that you can share. You can share on social media. You can, using that to really help support driving your own visibility. So these are a couple quick tips and strategies if we think about, getting started on thought leadership. The first one might seem really basic, but it's really growing your network. And I think when it comes to anything, whether it's media relations or it's thought leadership, really, establishing a strong network where you have strong alliances and you participate and engage in content with others is really beneficial down the road. You just never know where those relationships are going to take you, or where those might open doors, or where somebody, where you might connect with a media outlet, or you might connect with somebody else seeking that expertise. So I just really think at the end of the day, growing a strong network and engaging with that network is number one. But when we think about, thought leadership in general, right? I think the first step is to think about what's your topic. So that should go back to what's your expertise, but it also has to be what is an area where people need guidance on and where you can add value. Like, where is that conjunction between the two, right? Where are you an expert and what's the problem that you're solving for people with that expertise? Because really all of the thought leadership is always going to be framed in a way that it's timely, it's connecting to a trending topic, a struggle that people are dealing with right now. So I think when you think about your topic, it's really important to think about that. And that will also relate to your business too, right? Like what do you do and why do people need your service or your product, or what's the value you're providing? So that's kind of, I think, when you think about the topic. The other thing is, when you think about producing thought leadership, it's a lot about giving before you get, maybe, how can you provide value? And if you do provide value, you will grow an engaged audience. So a lot of, you're not going to be compensated for the articles that you write on thought leadership for a media outlet, right? But you will reap the benefits of having that great piece of coverage that shows your expertise and helps you sell yourself, your business, your message in a lot of other ways. So really thinking about, I guess, giving before you get, and establishing that audience and showing the value that you can provide people with, because then they will follow. I think sharing often, this is a hard one. Everybody's busy and it's easy to do something once and then just let it fall off the wagon a little. I think pick a plan and pick something that's realistic, but stay consistent, right? You don't want to just do one thing and then go away. I think if you really want to become a thought leader, you've got to have some consistency and find a consistency that works for you. So are you going to share on LinkedIn on, X basis? Are you going to write one article per quarter and work on getting that placed as a guest editorial? Are you going to pitch how many outlets each month to try to get yourself quoted as an industry expert? I think it's really about picking something that's, realistic, but staying consistent with it, because this can take a little bit of time to grow. But once that momentum and all that hard work you've done, kind of, it'll start rolling and coming out, and then you'll get the content and then you share the content, right? It's really about staying consistent with it. And the last one, I think, is, pitch yourself. This is something I personally feel like, as a publicist, was really good at promoting other people, but had a harder time talking about my own expertise for a long time. And I think it can be easy to be, too humble a little bit about what you know. So I think feeling confident in what you know, and, feeling strong when you go out to a reporter, or you share your point of view, to not second guess yourself, and not be timid about that, right? Show what you know and provide value. People are looking for that. So I wanted to include, because it can be kind of abstract thinking about thought leadership and how do we do this or that. So it's pretty, it's very basic, but what I wanted to do was show you 2 different pitches for literally, I think, the 2 top forms of thought leadership that I think are really feasible for I'm sure a lot of you people that are in attendance to start securing. So these are really some core elements of a great pitch, right? If you want to be quoted as an industry expert in your field. So the first part is really reaching to the editor and understanding what is it that they talk about, what's the area they talk about, right? So we work with a feminine healthcare brand, and they have different advisors that are OBGYN. So I might notice that on Glamour, they regularly need expert insights from an OBGYN for articles to support, as a credible source. This is just one example, and this could be across any industry, but right. So call that out right away. You notice what the person covers, you notice they need an expert, and part 3, you have that expertise that they're looking for. So who are you, right? I'm the founder, I work here. What is your role? But establish right away why you're somebody that's worth listening to, and what those, credentials you have are. And then it's really about just letting them know, like, hey, when you are doing articles on this topic, I would love to be considered as a source, and I'm happy to help you, right? I think news media, typically, when they look for sources for those types of articles, they work on really quick deadlines. It's very probable that you will send a pitch like this, you won't hear back for weeks, and then suddenly somebody will reach out saying, hey, I'm looking to speak with, people that are experts on tech, or I'm looking to interview entrepreneurs, or I'm looking to interview, and would you be open to answering a couple of questions and getting me responses yesterday, right? It's usually on very quick deadlines, but one of the best ways to grow those rapports with those kinds of editors is to be able to jump to it and meet tight deadlines for them, because sometimes it's really about helping them find the source they need on a quick timeline. But then, I think then it's really about, including a little bit more information about who you are. And then it's short and sweet, right? What you want is to be sure you include keywords on your field, on your expertise, and really directly connect to what they cover. Because what's likely to happen is they'll filter your message. It's going to go in a folder, and then they're going to do a search when they need people for a certain topic. And they're going to search, and they're going to see everybody that rises up to the top. And that's how they pull for experts. So that's kind of like one arena, right? How to be quoted as an instructor. And those are great features that you can share, like, hey, it was really, really cool being able to contribute to this article with my thoughts on XYZ, right? That's something great to share on social afterwards. Are there any questions on, I think, that side of, being quoted, securing quotes as an expert? I don't see any. Okay, I will go on to the next then. The next would be byline. So this is, and we'll kind of step into what to put in a byline a little bit after this, but I think this is a little bit more involved pitch, but this is basically, you have written a guest article. How do you find, okay, sorry, I do see a question. How do you find relevant publications to pitch to? So a couple ways. I would look at who are you trying to reach, right? And what are they reading? So industry publications, business journals, trade journals are always really good arenas to get in front of audiences. I think I would look at, where are your peers contributing content to? Have you seen a spot where you've noticed another business leader has contributed a guest article to? But really thinking about your topic of expertise, the media outlets talking about that topic specifically, which you're probably already well informed on and reading, and where you're seeing peers covered and submitting articles. And that's really going to be the best spot. Once you find those outlets, you can look into a lot of outlets will have a link at the bottom, actually, that has even a section for submitting content, to find out who you want to pitch. Sometimes there will be an editor whose title is, contributing or submissions editor, right? It's like an editor that oversees all of the contributed content. And sometimes it will really just be looking for the editor that covers the section that is your topic of, expertise, right? That's how you build out the media list. And there's tools to help you do this. You can use something like Cision, and there's other sources, but honestly, the best way is to just read where people are talking about things, and talking about your industry, and, what are the journalists that are, that makes sense for them to be incorporating you in that news. Okay, I'll hop back into writing a pitch. So you've written an article, and again, we'll talk a little bit more about what you put in that article, but you've written an article that's sharing your expertise on a topic, and you want to get it published. So when you're going to send that to a publication, it's going to look a little like this, right? I've noticed you run guest editorials on behalf of female entrepreneurs, and I'm the founder of this company, and we do XYZ, right? And this is your quick pitch for who you are, why you're an expert, and what's interesting. And then you'll say, I've written an original article on this topic, which is a topic that your readers are obviously really interested in. I would love, I pulled on my background to support this angle, and would love for you to consider it to share with your readers. And it's really straightforward. I would always copy paste the article below your signature and then link to it with your bio and a headshot. But the most important is really that pitch, because you have a very short attention span to be able to reach editors sometimes and capture their attention. So really framing, what's the article you wrote? What is it going to help their readers understand? And, and also showing that you're open to their feedback. It's pretty rare, I think, that I've ever seen an editor come back saying, well, don't agree with this, or would you be open to tweaking this? I mean, it's pretty unheard of, but it's always a nice thing to put out there, right? Like you're open to their input or, feedback on your article as well. And you really appreciate their consideration. So that's kind of like the base for the article. I think the next thing to think about is, how do you write a great subject line to capture their attention? Most editors are pretty overwhelmed, and you've got a pretty short span. So these are just some helpful tips. If you're pitching yourself to be quoted in a specific column, I would put in the subject, the name of the column, and then almost, in expert source on X topic for your news, right? Like being really clear and to the point of what you have to offer in that subject. Or if you're pitching an article, guest submission, founder of this, offering insights on this, like something that speaks, that lets them know before they even open it, the value that's going to be inside. And then just always avoiding things like cap locks or emoticons or exclamation points to get attention. That's always good. So I think a few lessons and a few things to think about that might be helpful as you're thinking about maybe creating content or, crafting your story. I would say, I say, don't try to be everything to everybody. And this is really just in messaging in general, when we talk about who we are, what we do. I think the more specific you can be about your expertise and your point of view, and really thinking about who that's of value to, will get you much further along. So don't be afraid to, be a little more very closely targeted with what you want to share and who it's relevant for. I talked about the other one before, not being timid about promoting yourself, but don't be shy to pitch yourself to outlets and really build up the expertise you have, because it's great, I'm sure. I think when we think about thought leadership, having a strong opinion it's important, and being able to state it clearly, right? I think being able to offer a unique point of view, but also having confidence in the way you deliver that is really important, right? Because there's so many experts out there, and there's so many people that are seeking to be quoted, but I think being able to really pull on why your point of view is different and what might be unique about who you are and where you come from and what your story is are things that will help set you apart when you're pitching yourself. I think another really important thing is whenever we think, whether it's PR or it's thought leadership or anything that has to do with getting something placed in the media, it's going to be 1,000 times easier to achieve this if you link to trending topics and timely topics, which there should always be a great timely reason to talk about what you're doing, because your business is doing that, where you're working, the services you're offering, the expertise you have is relevant for today for a reason. So really thinking about that and tying that into, how you frame things, right? So we work with, a business that's in supply chain management, and supply chains had a lot of struggles, obviously, over the last couple of years, and a lot of facilities have a hard time keeping up with demand. So it's a timely topic to think about how facilities can better prepare for crises and boost their operations in a way that keeps things moving, right? And so if I have a client that can provide insights on how that can be done and give some actionable takeaways, then that's something timely that the press is looking to cover, and that author is able to provide something of value for readers. So I think really just it runs the gamut, but thinking about what's trending in your field, what are people really struggling with in your field, and how can you help? Which leads me to really the framework of the guest article. So I would say there's different forms, and some can be more of a narrative form about your story. But I would say the number one type of content that media outlets most of the time are looking for when it comes to guest articles on thought leadership follows a very specific format, which does well. And it starts with, here's the problem that people are dealing with in my industry. Here's what's timely, what's happening right now. Here's a problem. Number two, it cuts to, here's my point of view on how people can be better prepared to, manage that problem, right? And then it cuts to 5, 3, 7, whatever your bullet list is, but here are bullet takeaways that are my lessons I've learned, insights that I recommend other people, implement, actionable advice that basically anyone reading that article can take home. So if we go back to that example I gave of building a national retail brand, which was an article published in Total Retail, which is a trade journal, in the retail landscape, right? That article probably kicks off talking about there's a lot of brands out there. How do you get yours in the doors of the Walmarts and the Targets of the world, right? How do brands do that? Here's some advice. Here's some things I've learned doing just this along the way. And here's 5 things that other brands that might be interested in, getting in the doors at top retailers could implement and think about while they're building their business. So I see a question here. Is it possible to put too much content in a thought leadership piece? In other words, can you give away the store by saying too much? I don't think so. I think, and that's kind of that give before you ask. I think thought leadership, if it's not a value, no one's going to want to run it, right? So I think the word count can't go on forever. Most articles are around 800 words, 750, 800, usually not more than 1,000. And different outlets will have their own guidelines, but I would say on average, most are kind of around the 800 word mark. But I think the more value you provide, the more people are going to be able to implement those insights and go away from that article thinking, wow, that was really interesting. That person really provided some interesting advice, and that's going to build your reputation. And I think that will pay off in the long run better than trying to not include as much information.
Suki, I do just want to mention there have been 2 other questions that came in.
Please,
so maybe I'll just ask them to you.
Yeah.
And then actually another question that just came in, but it doesn't have a Q in front of it. So I just want to make sure you know that. But the ones you missed, going back in time, first one, how do you find relevant publications to pitch to? And maybe for that, and then I'll give you the next one.
So yeah, we talked a little about that one. I think I would look at what are the top news sources in your field. So look at industry publications, and then look at, what's the topic you're talking about? Google that, do a filter for news and see what are those outlets that are talking about that topic specifically, because there will be out there. And that could be mainstream business outlets. And then I think it could also be trade outlets. And those are the best two channels for like getting quoted as an expert or for being able to, publish a guest article. But it's really looking at who's talking about, your expertise. You can also do Google alerts or do a search and go Google for maybe there's peers at other businesses that you've kept an eye on, or somebody you've seen is doing a lot of getting quoted a lot. Sometimes just setting Google alerts for others like that, and for yourself to see, or you could just do a search, but the notification's helpful to see, okay, they were here. That might be an interesting outlet for me to go to. That editor talks about this topic. I would be able to provide similar expertise. I should reach out.
Amazing. Okay, next question. Is the best way to reach someone at a publication through their email, assuming it's a public email, and or LinkedIn?
Yeah, I would always do email first. I would follow them on LinkedIn, see what they're posting on LinkedIn, use LinkedIn as a tool to understand what they might be interested in and to help you personalize what you're sending to them. But I would always reach out by email. Like 99.9% of editors will always want to hear from you by email.
Okay, great. And then the next one that came in that didn't have a queue, is it feasible to achieve publishing on our own via cold emailing, or do people hire firms to do this? And at what point do we turn to PR firms? Some firms have quoted a few $1,000s just to shop the article around.
Yeah, I think, we do exactly this for clients. But that's clients that are at a point where it makes sense to bring on an outside source. Can you do this on your own? Absolutely. It's really, it's a firm that's knowledgeable in this, or a PR firm that's knowledgeable in this and has a background, can make the process a lot easier, should have contacts already to feel secure about where they could publish it for you. They'd help you with the article. They kind of do the whole process with you. And that's normally part of a larger campaign. But does that mean you can't do this on your own? Absolutely. Like, give it a shot, right? Like, think about your expertise, think about pitching yourself. I think a lot of times that's a great way to kick things off. And then maybe when you're at a point where it makes sense to bring on outside support because you're ready to ramp up, or you want to do a larger campaign, or you really want to hit some of those big outlets like a CNBC that are going to be a lot harder than, other outlets, then that might make sense to bring on, an outside firm as well. But there's a lot of places you can start establishing thought leadership, which will help grow your reputation as you expand, right?
Amazing tips. Now, the next question is very related to the other ones that came in, but again, I think maybe people just really sometimes don't know where to start. So the question is, where do we pitch to those outlets to get quoted? So like where did that happen? Yeah, like I guess that the question is, where do we pitch? But maybe it should be who do you pitch in order to get quoted by those outlets? Is it like just doing Google searches of outlets and then reporters that write for the outlets? Like, how do people find the email addresses?
Okay, so yes. So actually most outlets on their websites will have email addresses, or there's a simple format that people use. The first thing to do would be to go to the About page, which most outlets have. Usually scroll to the bottom and there will be a link that's about us or our editorial team. And when you click there, you will see the people that are on the staff that are helping manage that. And I would look for if there's somebody that covers contributed content, like, is that in their title? There may or may not be. Sometimes with trade journals, it's a smaller staff usually, right? So it might just be the head editor or a managing editor, but you should be able to get an idea looking there to see who might be the best person to pitch on that staff. So that's if you're submitting an article. If you want to get quoted in a news piece by somebody, that's a little bit even more straightforward. It's like, who are the Google search, think about where you read your news, but find the specific editor who's covering that topic, right? Who's writing about your field every single day? Who could benefit from your quote? So really looking and who is that specific person. But a lot of times if the authors will have profile pages on the website, I would look there. There's a lot of, simple tools like, I think it's Rocket Launch. It's helpful for like finding email addresses. There's more expensive tools like Muck Rack or Cision. I wouldn't advise in that, at step one. I think I would really kind of build out, if you were to do this yourself, building out a smaller media list that you think is really well targeted. And then when you're ready to go after some of those bigger ones, to bring on a firm to help support that, they would have that media list already done for you. They put that together, right? That's kind of like maybe step two.
Amazing. And I do think in the fourth floor resources, we might have some media lists that have been shared. I think they might go out of date quickly, but anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
Another question that came in, Suki, you mentioned that you were previously hesitant to promote yourself. How did you overcome that hesitancy? Did you create a specific personal plan? I think I just got older, maybe. I don't know. I just was like, hey, I am a business owner too. I got to be like, I've spent so many years doing thought leadership on the behalf of other clients or writing articles. But, I think especially over the last couple of years, I decided that it would be great that I need to start doing it myself, right? Take my own advice and start doing it myself. So I contribute regularly to like the Puget Sound Business Journal here. I did some quotes with Business Insider last month, but I try to do, at least an article a quarter that hopefully provides some expert advice and insight that other, that entrepreneurs or business leaders can incorporate maybe before they're at the point of bringing on an outside firm, or maybe to help them understand if they should bring on an outside firm. But I think it's also just not being shy about that, not feeling like you're bragging about yourself, because it's really, there's no room for that in establishing oneself as an expert, right? And I think it's just having confidence in what you know and just accepting that and don't be too humble, right? That's not gonna help you explain who you are and why your stories of interest. And it's not necessary in this space when you're reaching out to media to kind of tout yourself. Right, that's great. Okay, last question I have for you, then I'll stop helping you and you can continue. Okay, how do you determine what your expertise is? So this person says, I'm great at pitching my business, but I don't know where to start when I'm pitching myself.
I wish do we know what industry their business is? I'm trying to think of when you pitch yourself, I think it needs to, let me think if I can give like a specific example. It really hits back to.
Do you mind if I jump in? I asked that question. So I'm in a weird industry. Like I'm a one-woman wrecking crew in cold therapy, which is an industry nobody really touched. Okay. So my business is cold therapy clothing. I invented it where I fuse ice packs in clothing so you don't have to stop the ice anymore. So I can pitch my business really well, but when it comes to me, I don't know how to come with the same passion and fever.
So you're the founder of your business?
I am.
Okay, so that right there is one story that's really great, right? You've created a business, you've gotten it off the ground, you are an entrepreneur. There's a lot of opportunities to share that side of things, right? Like what have you learned along the way? What are some of the lessons that you might provide others as a founder, right? What are 5 things that you wish you had known before you founded your company? What are some interesting, insights as a business owner that you think you could help others on that same path? That's one area. I think the other would be to think about who's your audience? Who's your consumer for the ice pack for your product?
So we have a really good problem. Our product covers 70% of the population because we cover aging millennials, Gen Xers, and baby boomers. But our first 5 segments are blue collar workers, postpartum mothers. We have a panty that has for cesarean and an ice pack in the middle of the panty for natural birth. And then athletes. Great. Athletes, general pain sufferers, and then people post-surgery.
So then I think it's kind of about framing. You could pick any of those sectors and you could do a different pitch for all of them. But I think framing about how you said kind of helping with pain management or maybe the thought leadership is really about how new innovations are improving the way mothers experience the postpartum period. And we need more innovations like this. And that thought leadership doesn't have to only speak to your product. It can also speak to your expertise in that sector. So maybe if you're highlighting, you know, the different ways that we need better tools, it's like a soft sell on what you do, but framing it in a way that shows why it's relevant, but also offering other expertise. So maybe it's, you know, we need better solutions for moms in that postpartum period when it comes to pain management. Here's why, and here's what can be done. Does that make sense? Does that kind of help a bit?
Thank you.
Sure.
And I lied, Suki. There's one more. And this, like a thumbs up, people really want to know the answer to this. What social mediums are best for business, in your opinion? Also, do you think podcasts get better traction for businesses than YouTube or articles?
I think it depends so much on the sector you're working in and, you know, who you're trying to reach. So I think, you know, LinkedIn is a very specific space because, right, to be able to share thought leadership and get in front of different networks. I think that can be great. I mean, some people, if you're in a more visual industry, or you're in fashion or lifestyle or, you know, wellness, I think Instagram is really relevant, and TikTok videos, obviously, right, going viral. But I don't feel like there's one space. I mean, if you're thinking from thought leadership realm specifically, I think podcasts are a really great space to share thought leadership, because there's so many, and there's a lot that really are looking to share people's expertise on a specific topic, right? So there's so many podcasts that feature founders or people talking about their startup journey and what they could talk to them. But there's also a lot of podcasts for specific industries, and a lot of them tend to be structured in that interview format where you could share your expertise. So I think podcasts definitely have high value, and a lot of those will feature, you know, the original podcast plus a YouTube video. But I think LinkedIn is a really great space to share your thought leadership once you know, if you have some outline, like, or you've shared an article, and being able to share that and get additional visibility for that in front of decision makers and other thought leaders and targeting that's really beneficial. But again, it really is kind of thinking about who do you want to know, who do you want to be put in front of as a thought leader, and what do you want from them, and where are they reading the news? Where are you gonna find them? I think, yeah.
No more questions for me at this time.
I think we're at the questions, so we can keep going on questions if there are any others, or wrap. Or, you know, I'm happy to take any others if there are.
I have a question. I am in the leadership development, thought leadership space, and I know that space is getting increasingly crowded. What have you seen be particularly effective? I'll tell you a little bit about my niche. My niche is helping companies close the promotion and retention gaps for high-performing women of color and to stop the talent revolving door. So I work with companies. I also work with individuals as well to move them from being kind of the best kept secret to on their company's short list of highly promotable folks. Okay. So, I mean, it's super timely. I think you already nailed it. What the problem is, the revolving door, you know, employee engagement, retaining employees, empowering employees, right? That's why this is timely. That's a struggle that a lot of businesses are dealing with, and including some statistics that support that would be a great intro to a piece. You know, any stats that show this is the kind of, you know, this is the revolving door. This is how many people are leaving. This is why this is such a big problem. This is proof. We all know companies are struggling with this. And here's, you know, in my X years working and supporting businesses and improving this, here are 5 tips I have to share that, you know, other businesses looking to
for a better way forward, right, can incorporate. I mean, I think that's like the flow of an article
Okay.
that a lot of outlets would be interested in. And if
Okay.
you think about pitching your expertise, it's very similar. It's like, you know, hey, companies are struggling with this today and they need to do better. And, you know, if you're ever looking to speak with experts in that arena to provide insights, I'd love to be kept in mind. Please feel free to let me know.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of websites that talk about almost like, I feel like that could almost go in an HR kind of trade. Anything talking to business leaders. There's, you know, quite an array, like HR, there's a lot of outlets that cover that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just want to let you know, Suki, 2 more questions have come in. If
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to read them to you. If you see them, you can respond to them.
Okay, yeah, I see. What's your advice on how to approach reporters? Would it be different for TV and radio reporters? Yeah, absolutely. So I think TV it's very specific. And it depends if you're looking at doing more of a local or national TV, but TV media tends to have a very specific call to action that viewers can take. So if you're looking at local news, there's something you are doing locally. Are you speaking at a conference that's happening? There's got to be something outside of just you coming on as an expert, right? To really be able to capture their attention. And I would make that like a lower priority on my pitch list, because it's just, unless you have that specific connection to something taking place, it's a harder pitch. And then radio reporters, it's really thinking about, what do they bring on guests every day? What do those guests talk about? Is that a specific segment that would make sense for you? Then pitch it really, really distinctly. But definitely different, more nuanced there. Are there any AI tools that you find helpful when it comes to brainstorming on topics? I haven't started using AI, but I'm hearing all about it. I'm like, maybe I need to start doing a little bit for that, for kind of some background ideas. I usually just try to read a lot, and I Google a ton, and I try to read what other people are contributing, and I check out stuff on LinkedIn and keywords to see what's trending. But I'm sure there are some good AI tools out there that I'm not up on yet.
So you're not endorsing Chat GPT
I
as
know.
being the mouthpiece?
I know. Not yet, no. But I'm getting asked, I mean, I feel like it's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. Yeah, in the PR and media world. What if you want to talk about, you're not sure? Sorry. Well,
yeah, Karen, and I'm happy to read it to you.
Yeah, do you want to read it? That'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. So if what you want to talk about might not directly pique the interest for, you know, the audience that you're targeting. So she's saying, for me, one of my specialties is quieting our inner critic.
Well, I think yeah, it's about highlighting that in a way that will be relevant, because why bother if it's not going to reach the people you want, then why bother? But I think that quieting inner critics can be something that's a really important business skill for leaders and CEOs and founders to be able to have confidence and be able to make decisions, and right, like self-criticism, that can be kind of a domino effect in a lot of areas. So thinking about why that is in fact relevant, because it is. And really, if that's your specialty, really putting it in a way that highlights why it's something important for a business leader to be able to confidently achieve, because it will help their business growth. So really thinking of it from that framework. Okay,
that's great. And now another question. Christine said she's had good success with 30 to 60 second TikToks and putting them on LinkedIn. But is there another way to circulate these short but effective videos, or should she just go right to articles?
I think really, yeah, I mean, circulating them is really, I would suggest, yeah, across your social media channels. If you have, your own blog or a website that it's relevant to put that on, or if you do email distributions, you know, or have a specific column that maybe you highlight your insights once a week and you put that video there. I mean, thinking about how you brand it. But I think that's a great way, and things that can kind of go viral. That's really helpful in establishing expertise. And you can also leverage that for, if you really do go viral that way, leverage that for your introductions to media about, you know, I'm an expert on this topic and here's a link to a recent thing I did, right? And showing that, so using it as credibility for why. But I think what's beneficial about an outlet running it is that third party recognition and that outside logo that's basically saying that what you have to say is credible and trustworthy and something people should listen to.
That's a great point. Okay, another question. How do you feel about starting and then building a YouTube channel?
It's all about, I think, what you can stay consistent with. And, you know, but YouTube's amazing. I mean, the viewers and what's great about that is that people will keep finding it, right? It's not something that goes up once and then it kind of vanishes. I mean, so that CNBC thought leadership piece with one of our clients, you know, Pink Lily, the fashion entrepreneur, we also did an interview with them that they posted on their YouTube channel last year. And it's, you know, gotten more than 2 million views. And I think it was their most viewed video of all of last year. So, I mean, I think what I think is really cool about that is being able to go back and see people continually finding it. So that's a real great benefit of that. And I think being able to, but don't do it if you can't keep it up, right? You don't want to put up and you have one video sitting up there and then it's old and it's dated and then when people search, it doesn't look current. So I would do it, you know, or maybe I would just stick to a strategy and try to keep it consistent, because that's where you see the most results.
There's also a comment in here about how YouTube is owned by Google, so it helps with your search engine optimization, SEO. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. And, you know, so that's a great way. All of this thought leadership also helps with your SEO, right? And I think also just getting those links when you do publish an article or you get a quote and it links to your website, those are high authority websites and link backs to your site that, you know, those outlets won't put in backlinks through other means, right? That's got to be through earned content that's up there. So that will help you come up higher in the search as well. But absolutely, and great videos, people love videos. I mean, everything is video these days. So having a great video out there, that's something really beneficial.
Okay, I think those are all the questions that have come in.
Okay.
That I see. Are there other questions? Like we are getting down to the wire. Not sure, Suki, if you maybe just to hand it back to you for a powerful close. Yeah, and I echo what's in the chat. This was a wonderful presentation, just really clear, really concise. All of it was useful. I took a lot of notes. I think probably everyone on the call was taking a lot of notes. And this was recorded. Anyone in the fourth floor, you can, you know, watch it in resources, in programming. We'll circulate it to people who registered but couldn't come. So really just great content. And certainly behalf of the fourth floor, thank you for this. Just want to hand it back to you in case you have any final thoughts to.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. I think, you know, anybody is capable of being a thought leader. So feel confident and empowered that you can do this and stick to it. And I would love to keep in touch. Feel free to shoot me an email if anyone has any questions. It's up there. Our website's there. I'm on LinkedIn all the time and Instagram. So feel free to reach out wherever.
And the fourth floor.